We're going to paint Totem Rock. It's a group of very interesting spires in Monument Valley. And here's one reference image. A little bit further away from the spires, you have some sand dunes, and so I'm going to not follow my photo exactly. I'm going to combine some of the sand dunes and the light from the hotter picture with this composition of the spires over here. And so the first thing I do is take my reference image and I just fold it into quarters, basically fold it in half twice in both directions, and that just gives me a quick grid for the image. And then I'll grid out the canvas and copy what I need onto the canvas, and you can see a picture of that drawing on the canvas. You can download this image from the reference section. We've transferred our drawing to the canvas using elements from both photos. The main photo we folded and gridded, and we took some of the sand dunes and moved them into our painting. And now we're going to start with the sky. We're going to pre-wet the sky area to keep brush marks out of the sky. The pre-wetting helps the paint blend easier. And we're going to be using an interesting lifting technique for the thunderheads that'll eventually be in the sky. This dune is going to be some comic relief in this painting. I think I end up painting over this about 5 times. So don't worry, it wasn't planned. I've made this drawing in non-permanent ink so that it would show up better on the filming, but what this means is I'm going to have to work a little harder to get rid of the lines that are on the canvas. I'm still kind of waiting for the sky to dry, so I'm going to work on the most distant cliffs Gonna start out with some cool neutral blues and move toward a warmer purple, just to add interesting variation and kind of suggest that the cliffs are coming a bit closer to us. But one of the main things is to add the color variation. And in order to add that kind of variation in acrylics, I've found that you have to do it all in one sitting as you add or change the color of the mix gradually. You can't have the mix or the paint on the paper dry out. You want them to blend together as you change the colors. And so you have to paint your entire shape in one sitting. I'm really happy with the way this color gradation is shaping up. Okay, the sky is dry, so we're going to put a new layer over the top, and I'm going to lighten the values of the distant cliff by just bringing a light diluted version of the sky colors down into the cliffs. And we're going to quickly paint over the first sky layer, and then we'll be lifting using a clear water technique, which slows drying of these parts of this top layer, and then we'll just lift that off, and it kind of makes for an interesting, random, and kind of organic texture. So here we go with the clear water. This will slow down drying of the top layer or wash while the rest of it dries, and then we'll be able to place a paper towel on it and pick up the colors from the original wash underneath. And there's our thunderhead and the sky shaping up. We'll do a bit more with it to finish up, but in the next lesson we will paint the main spire. One thing about Totem Rock is there's a bunch of faces in the rocks, and we want to kind of capture those faces that you see. You don't see them immediately, and that's going to be the hard part, is to not have super explicit faces in the Totem Rocks. A few finishing touches with the sky. I just wanted to amplify the edge of that thunderhead. All right, we are going to paint the main spire, and this is going to be a 2-layer process. We'll put some really interesting, brighter gradated colors into the spire, and then we'll cover it over with a very dark layer, and we'll use the water and paper towel lifting technique to generate a bunch of the rock textures. Now, these formations are called Totem Rocks for a reason. If you look at them long enough, you can start to see faces in them, and we're going to want to capture that in our painting. But that's not really going to be until the very end that we suggest the faces. We don't want explicit faces in there. We want the viewer to kind of look for it and possibly be surprised by them. And then if they look for more, they'll see them there. Because that's kind of the way the actual rock formation behaves. here we go with the joke dune again. This will be the third layer of paint on it. Okay, we're still waiting for the main spire to dry, so we're going to do that next line of distant cliffs. I'm going to let more of the brush strokes show in this layer because it's a little closer to us, and that'll give the illusion of rock detail.
Makes a man crazy enough to join the cops? Find out, you let me know.
This has happened before, it'll probably happen again.
So we're getting more texture on this layer of cliffs, and we're keeping the colors changing as we move along. You have to work quickly and finish the whole shape in one sitting in order that the paint doesn't dry on us. Still not dry, so we're gonna go to another spire. I want the colors a little cooler and just a touch grayer because this spire is deeper into the painting. Going to get those mid-ground hills, cliffs. What I'm trying to do is get all the values established because we're going to depend on atmospheric perspective to create a lot of the depth in this painting. And so that means the values have to organize well. And I think we're in a pretty good spot here. We're going to add the really darks over the main spire. continuing to work on the middle spires. Adding the colorful highlight of the main spire. We're going to make some nice gradations of color while keeping the value lighter than the midtones of the shadowed side of the spire. Now it's time for some big darks on the back side of the main spire. And I'll be adding some clear water to this with a finer brush. The clear water slows down the drying in those areas. And so when the main dark wash starts to dry, we can pull up the areas with the clear water using a paper towel. And it's kind of a really neat, random, organic type texturing. Okay, I'm gonna add the clear water in real-time speed. And I have my fine brush because I don't want to get a whole bunch of water on this shadowed side. And because the acrylic underpainting underneath has dried, we'll be able to lift back to those colors. And this is something that is pretty much the hallmark of acrylics. You can't really do it with watercolor or oils. It's pretty much for acrylics. And it works neat. Some time has elapsed and that initial dark wash has dried, but the clear water areas haven't. So we stamp, you don't scrub the paper towel, you stamp it and pull it away. And you find a clean area, stamp it and pull it away. And then you can clean out the lifted areas even a bit more by adding some additional clear water. See, the rest of the dark wash has dried enough that the paper towel can't lift it. But in the areas where we hit the clear water, we're now picking up paint from those areas and letting the underpainting come through. So just a stamp and a lift. Now you can see up close how that lifting pulled the darker colors away and let that mid-tone, more colorful wash or layer come through. We're going to do the more colorful highlighted areas of the minor spires, and those are going to be nice gradations of color, lighter in value, just like we did the main spire. another underpainting going on for the last spire. I've covered up a lot of my drawings at this point, but it's just important to have made the drawing to give you the feel and the idea, and then you can just go with what the paint tells you. Now let's throw a few highlights onto the distant cliffs. The most distant cliffs we're done with, we're going to leave alone, but those middle ground or deep middle ground cliffs, we're going to add a few highlights to. Now we do the darks for the last spire. And this is a little too dark, but I'm not going to leave it that way. I need this dark on that spire to be less dark than the others. There's some lighter purples placed into that. Here comes some clear water. You can see one of the faces starting to take shape at the bottom of this spire. Couple of highlights while we're waiting for the darker wash to dry on the last spire.
This has happened before, it'll probably happen again.
Okay, here we go. Time to lift the textures from that distant spire. And it's too dark, so we're gonna fix that up a little. This is helping to lift some additional paint with a wet brush going over the top of it. If that most distant spire is as dark or darker than the foreground spire, then I'm going to lose some of my atmospheric perspective, and we don't really want that to happen. One of the things that's going to help separate these spires from the middle ground are these shadows. And Eventually I'm going to take a look at these and make them more neutral and extend them out a bit more, but for right now they're just kind of placeholders, and I'm testing a brighter color. So here we go, we're knocking down those darks on the final spire to push it deeper into the painting. Took some of that shadow turquoisey blue color, put it on that distant spire. Okay, we're gonna work on the foreground and the midground, add some sages, and I'm gonna work on the cast shadows a bit more. I'm gonna try some more intense color. And I'm even going to add another layer of paint to the front dune. Now I'm going to paint some sage here in the foreground, and I'm going to paint some lighter greens and then put some darker greens underneath, and then we'll paint some of the branches in. I want to vary the greens a lot. Greens can go dead on you, and strangely enough, the human eye is least sensitive to green, so you need to push the color variation a lot to keep a green area interesting. I'm going to use these sage shapes all the way off into the far middle ground to help with some of the depth in the painting. Now I'm going to cast some shadows from the little sage. I want a group of sage because I'm going to have groups of sage going off into the distance in the middle ground. Here we go with a group of sage off into the distant middle ground, and it's basically just going to be dots or little vertical marks connected together. No shadows, no supporting branch work. It's just important that it follows the slope of the hill. And then as we come closer to the nearer part of the middle ground, we'll make the marks bigger and even have some color variation in them. And then finally, we'll make bigger marks and add some branches as we get into the foreground. Get me on there. I'm going to try some high color intensity shadows just to see how this color plays with the high color of the spires. With acrylic, I can just cover it right over if I don't like it, so I can experiment right on the painting. Adding some branch suggestions to this group of sage that's closest in the middle ground. More shadows. I lightened up the cast shadows from the spires that were the furthest away. Shadows tend to get lighter as they get further away from the object casting them. Now I'm going to cast some shadows in that near group of sage. I've decided that those blue shadows are too intense and they take a little away from the spires. So I'm going to gray them down a bit, and I'm also going to extend one of them behind the main spire to help with some extra depth. I've decided I don't like these dune shadows being blue, so I'm going to just turn it into a grayed down neutral tones. I want the main focus to be on that line of spires. to start amplifying the suggestion of faces in the totem rocks. So just little details and suggestions. I don't want it to be super obvious. I want it to be something that the person sees, and then as they start to look, they can see more of them. Just like in the real totem rocks, and this is probably how the rocks got their name. And so we're going to try and capitalize on that. Pick out noses and lips, brow formations. Make sure an upper lip has shadow and a lower lip picks up some color. Gonna add in a little definition to the immediate layer of cliffs behind the spires. I can see faces in the rocks pointing up, down, to the right, to the left. Kind of zoom in so you can see some of the details on the painting. There's our distant cliff layers with just the brush strokes, suggesting the texture on the cliffs. There's our main spire. We use that lifting technique in the main spire and the thunderhead. And here are the minor spires. There's quite a few faces in these when you actually start to look at them, so that came out really well. There's our foreground sages. And there's our cast shadows, a little bit more grayed down, made a little longer. Our sage in the middle ground. And that's our painting.